Hey guys, and welcome to episode 108. Holy fucking shit. Okay, that's actually gonna prove a bit of my point. I got a cold again and I wasn't really able to make many videos, so that's why I've been kind of dead again lately. I was like really confused and mad because it's like the second cold that I've had in a couple of weeks, and I normally don't really care about that too much, but it just means that I can't record anything really because I would be sniffing and coughing all over the videos, and that was just not the most amazing thing. But I should be kind of back by now. My voice is still a bit, it's not great, but you know, it never is. So decided to just do this episode anyway. In this episode, I'll be making a building which is gonna really resemble the tower, also known as Big Ben, but which is actually not called Big Ben, so I'll call it the Elizabeth Tower. Because otherwise some English people are probably gonna throw some crumpets at me because they're furious that I misnamed their tower. But it's also a bit of a Manchester kind of city hall-ish tower in the sense that I kind of wanted to draw influences from both, as the idea with this, as well as many of the other things that I'm trying to get in as weenies, because this is going to be the major weenie for this area. It's going to have to be that thing that you can see from the entire area that is larger than the rest of the buildings to give a real signature sort of building of the area. And I wanted to get something that would really resemble some very well-known monuments of England, but at the same time not be any actual building in real life. So that's why I kind of want to make a mix of both buildings. It has that really stereotypical golden Big Ben-ish clock on it, with of course the black spire like that, but I want to get some smaller towers on the side in a similar vein to how the City Hall of Manchester has that. And when it comes to the arches and the rest of the building, it's really just going to be a bit of a mashup between both. I want to have a bit of Victorian-ish style to this building, which is actually what the Parliament building is known for, but I also want to get those Gothic sort of arches in that the City Hall of Manchester has. So if you're not already very confused, a very brief recap is basically I'm going to make a tower and try to make it as fancy as possible over here. Also, this thing is actually going to have a function, which is very rare for buildings in this park so far. I do want to focus a lot more on actually getting functionality, because so far I do think I've been building too many empty buildings. For some areas it was really important to get the ambience, especially for the Amsterdam area. But over here I at least want to get some sort of function to each part of this area. So the main path in front of this is going to have planters, some smaller pavilions, restaurants, and even flat rides. And this building itself will be the entrance facade to a dark ride that I am planning to have in this area. So that is pretty much that. That being said, I don't know anything else about what I really want to do with the dark ride. There's no real theme so far, or what sort of dark ride I want to make. I suppose I'll just see that when I do it. And another point is that I will be making that dark ride and recording it on screen, but I will not be making it in this park file most likely. I'm already having problems with the park file, and my current goal is to do half of this park on this park file. By my estimate, and at around that time I should be hitting about 15 P.P.S on the park file size, which is just way too much for Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 to handle. I'll most likely get many crashes and stuff, but if I can reach getting half of the park done by that time, then I can do the other half in a different park file, and I shouldn't have too many problems trying to make this look like one park while actually building it in two different park files. But it would be a lot better than cutting it into 3 parts, for example, because it is obviously a lot easier to divide my park into 2 parts, just cut it in half and just work on the other half in another park file. So that's one thing. Another thing that you may have noticed just on the tower is that I actually pre-built this thing. I just kind of messed up when I was doing this. I built it before just to see if I liked the way I would build it in game, to experiment with pieces that I could use for it, which would make sure that this time-lapse, because if I didn't cut that out, this time-lapse would have been 20 minutes, of which 15 minutes would have just been building that tower. So I tried to do it first, not recording it, and then get into the actual park file and build the tower in a much shorter amount of time, actually knowing what I had to do, but I done goofed on that, and I actually didn't remember everything. So that's why I sometimes got a structure, a pre-built structure that looks very much like this tower in there to kind of see what sort of details I needed to do. I have not copied this building or anything. That was just a bit of preparation that I actually kind of fucked up on. Normally I don't want to show that in the time-lapse, but it just kind of happened today. That being said, I'm rebuilding it just to get the time-lapse done and to actually also improve a bit on the older design, add some extra details, and leave out some other things that I didn't like as much. Also, you'll probably see me scrolling around the park quite a bit. I was, and I still am, very unsure about the height of this building. I really want to do a lot of mass study to see if the size of the building is actually good, so how it looks from every angle of this section of the park. And currently the problem that I have is that it just seems a bit too low. Especially the towers seems to be a bit too low, but even the main section of the building could be 1 or 2 higher. And really the problem with that is that you can't just make a building 1 or 2 higher without deleting the entire building or adding some sort of weird fundament that it's placed on that would be way too awkwardly high. So I think that at some point I might actually completely rebuild the tower and make it higher than it currently is, but that's actually something that I'll most likely do much further into the future, because the planning is that around this building I'll have many English buildings as well. Get a really nice English town facade string going with all sorts of things, just standard English houses, but also get some Edwardian, Victorian, and of course some, though I still really have to look at how I want to do that, some Tudor houses as well. One of the problems that I'm running into, why I'm not really doing that yet, is because there's a lack of custom scenery for it, but as soon as I get that problem solved, I do want to go into that. And really the rest of this building was just, I almost feel like this is a building that's amazing to look at when you look at it from a distance, but as soon as you get closer to it, it's just because one of the main issues is that I obviously didn't want or could make a heap load of custom scenery sets just for this one building to get all the nice details in. So it's really just a mishmash of every single custom scenery set that I could find that could somehow actually kind of fit what I wanted to do. So there's a lot of really random stuff in there. Really random. I shouldn't be making English jokes, no, I should not be doing that. But yeah, that I don't know, it's one thing that always nags me about that is when you look up to it closely, it looks a bit weird, since, for example, I use the like the top part of a wall for castles as a sort of cornice piece to divide the 2 floors, and there are some Ralphie's Beaver home items in there as well, which makes the entire building look fine and dandy when you look at it from a distance, but then as soon as you come close, it's like, aren't those pieces supposed to be used for American homes? That's the sort of kind of feeling that I'm getting with this building, but otherwise don't worry about it too much. I do like this building and the way that it's shaping up right now, and definitely think it's going to be a very good weenie for this area. It's just that when it comes to the details, I might still look at it later on. But that's really just the Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 traits. If you want to get if you want to do a building style that requires many details, like a Victorian or pretty much any very large building, like a palace or a church or anything like that, it's really just gonna have to be searching for every single type of custom scenery just to get those details in. So that's just kind of what's happening over here too. So though I'm not really worried about it, it's something that I would rather not see, but it's really inevitable in this game if you want your buildings to actually have that extra bit of detail. Plus, something that I also want to be aware of is the fact that I don't want to over detail my buildings, because that's actually a thing. Details are fine to add as long as you keep a division between not so detailed buildings and more detailed buildings, and if you keep a division between detailed parts of buildings and not detailed parts of buildings. To give an example, this building has very detailed and like it has pretty much sugar-coated walls, but the roof itself of the building itself is just gonna be simple. Holy shit, I ran out of breath there. It's just gonna be simple, and really I'm not gonna add too much to that, so that kind of evens it out and doesn't make the entire building just one big sugar-coated pie of weird details. In any case, that's it for this episode, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.